So I just saw Challengers, the newest film from director Luca Guadagnino. I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly, I have no idea. This is the same director as I Am Love, Call Me By Your Name, and the Suspiria remake, and also Bones and All, which I don't know if everybody was huge on, but I really enjoyed. He is one of my favorite directors, so his films are always on my radar, but this film in particular seemed quite interesting to me. When it comes to directors that I'm actually excited to see films from, I generally do not watch the trailers, so all I really knew about this film before going into it is that he directed it, and also Zendaya's in it, and also it's a sports romance drama? Eventually an image got posted on Reddit of Zendaya and these two guys on a bed, and so people's first impression is that this would be a threesome movie. It's kind of a funny image to promote your film with, but yeah, I get it. It gets people talking for sure. And something that I found very interesting that I didn't see a lot of people talking about, and it's that this film is written by Justin Kuritzkis, who has never written a feature before, but is the guy who created the classic potion seller meme.
I'm going to battle and I need your strongest potions. You can't handle my strongest potions. No one can.
This is a classic dumb YouTube video. I find it very funny, and I was very shocked and excited to find out that this guy would be writing the next Luca Guadagnino film. Eventually an IMAX poster got released for this film, which made me even more confused and intrigued. Like, what the hell are they gonna show in this movie? I thought it was just gonna be people having a threesome. I don't know. So I went out of my way to watch this film in IMAX, and I'm glad I did because it honestly blew me away. Part of what I really love about this director is that several of his films give me a new emotional experience. The choices for how he combines music and imagery are fresh and daring. There's such an incredible energy to this film, and I didn't know this until the end credits started playing, but this film is scored by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, who created a super interesting, energized, enjoyable score. And the score is great by itself, but the way it's used in this film feels so fresh and innovative. There are dramatic scenes of people arguing with each other while there's essentially a house-type beat playing, and on paper you would never think that something like that could work, but it does. This film is filled with tension and high-intensity emotions, and the way that the story and characters build the emotion over the course of the film is just so much fun to watch. The way in which information is presented and the order in which scenes appear is very intelligent and purposeful. It is not only clever in terms of how the order of revealing information helps the emotions build, but it also serves a meaningful purpose thematically. The way that time jumps back and forth in this film feels as though the film itself is a tennis ball being hit back and forth across a court. And it's also super impressive that despite how many times this film jumps back and forth between time periods, there's not a single point in the film where it felt confusing or improperly communicated. There's an incredible sense of continuity, and they even find interesting ways to communicate these details. There's a certain point in the film where it's revealed that there's a windstorm the day before the big match, and so naturally, whenever you see that there's a lot of wind, you know that it's the day before the big match. I love that they used the environment to complement the story. It not only serves a purpose atmospherically, but also as a logistical way to communicate information. There are ideas and images that are reincorporated in this film, and they are done so meaningfully and in a very satisfying way. There are great characters in this film that are flawed and complex, and although they are certainly not the most relatable in a moral sense, they are super interesting and very fun to watch. Each character on screen in this film is very watchable with a fantastic sense of screen presence. Even the minor characters that only show up for one scene really add to the experience of this film. Zendaya works really great for this role, and the two male leads who I was not familiar with earlier also do a really fantastic job. There's some great makeup in this film with realistic looking scars and injuries. This film is also super well shot and visually expressive. Near the beginning of the film, I was feeling as though maybe the cuts between the shots were a bit too frequent, but I really wound up loving how this contrasted with later scenes in the film. There are very different approaches to how each scene was shot and edited, and this sense of variety not only felt stimulating, but was purposeful for each scene. Now, with the characters in this film being tennis players, there are quite quite a few matches that we see over the runtime, and I absolutely love how each one of these matches had a completely different approach in terms of how it was shot. And again, it's not just visually interesting, but there's actual thought and purpose behind these choices. These choices were not only creative, but they were super ambitious and expertly pulled off. By the last match in the game, the choice for how they shot the scene had me literally saying to myself, "Oh fuck yes." I said this very quietly to myself under my breath, because I was super impressed, and I can't believe they went for it, and I can't believe that it looked as good as it did. There are filmmaking ideas that conceptually you could write down, but it would seem like an absolute nightmare to pull off successfully, but they actually do, and it works, and it's incredible. All of this combined with the building energy of the story and the performances and the music, this is the art of filmmaking being used to its advantage. This is cinema. The sexy potion seller Zendaya IMAX tennis movie is cinema. This is an incredibly presented, super intense, very fierce, and sexually charged film. And the only real issue that I had was that some of the lines here and there felt a little bit cheesy, but it still worked. Very fun movie, love the director, great job potion seller Justin Kuritzkis, awesome first feature, go check it out, absolutely love it. And I am giving this one a 9 out of 10. It's closer to an 8 than a 10, so it's a low 9. I was deciding between an 8 or a 9, and yeah, I think it's a 9 out of 10. Another film I saw was The People's Joker. This is a trans Joker parody film from Vera Drew, and as you can probably tell, it's pretty shitposty and ironic. It's very anti-comedy, anti-humor type humor, and that is something that I generally do enjoy. Now, this film actually premiered at TIFF last year, but was pulled after the first screening due to rights issues. It's a little unclear what happened. Some people are speculating that she received a cease and desist from Warner Brothers. It's not really confirmed, so who knows. Either way, I do appreciate this film's existence, and I'd like to see more people utilizing fair use parody law. It's kind of funny considering the current onslaught of knockoff films that appear in droves every time an IP makes its way into the public domain, when a lot of these films are going for something so completely different than the original IP that you could make an argument that it would be fair use anyway. Like, depending on how the story is handled and to what degree it is a parody, you don't necessarily need to wait for something to be in the public domain to make your film. Anyway, now The People's Joker has some kind of a theatrical release. It is appearing in many independent theaters across the United States and Canada, a bunch of indie art house cinemas, etc. It's kind of cool that this film is actually getting somewhere, and it seems to have connected with quite a few people. Now, that being said, this is kind of a difficult film to recommend. It is obviously very niche, and despite the shitposty, ironic nature, it is still not very well filmed at all. It's kind of like a 90-minute Adult Swim type sketch, but still with much less production value. Sure, this is obviously made with a shoestring budget and many limitations, but I still found myself really longing for some actual intent and motivation in the framing and camera work, which, if you haven't seen Hundreds of Beavers yet, please check out that film. It's on iTunes and Amazon right now, because that is an example of a film that really shows that budgetary limitations can still result in a great visual style. The People's Joker is a film where the limitations are not just in the budget, but also in the execution. And although it is very charming to see someone not allowing these limitations to stop her from making a film, as much as I enjoyed how much this movie is funny, rebellious, and punk as fuck, it is unfortunately a visual eyesore for the majority of its runtime, which, again, if you're watching the video, you can already really tell. And this is a film that feels self-aware and knows what it is, but the charming nature of the irritating look of this film does wind up feeling very repetitive and exhausting by the end of it. I was actually surprised to see what felt like a real story with a narrative that actually grew and progressed over the course of the film, and I was incredibly surprised that there were emotional beats in this story that actually hit really well. Despite presenting itself as a jokey shitpost, it still manages to feel very purposeful and meaningful. It somehow touches on something very real and empathetic, and there's parts of this film that make for a really great trans coming-of-age story that expresses emotions and ideas that are sure to be relatable for anyone who's trans or non-binary. I didn't expect to get emotional from this film at all, but I did, because despite the clear sense of irony, it is also very earnest. When it comes to to the humor in this film, I did find it pretty funny. There were some good jokes and some genuine laughs. The music choices in the film worked pretty well and provided a fun energy. There were also some fun and interesting sequences with different stylistic approaches. Now, unfortunately, despite having several aspects that do really work for this film, the final 20 minutes of the film felt really anticlimactic and lacked any sense of impact, and it might be because the repetitive nature of the film had me really exhausted and kind of checked out by this point. It's a 90-minute film that to me felt like it was nearly 2 hours, and honestly, my ideal version of this would have been between 60 and 75 minutes. There are definitely scenes that could have been cut from this film that wouldn't really have changed the overall experience. Still, I don't regret watching this film, and it was a fun screening overall. Overall, it was an amusing and interesting experience that at points actually managed to be impactful. So check this one out if you want. Again, it's kind of a niche thing, can't really recommend it to everybody. If it seems like something that you would enjoy, then you'll probably enjoy it, and if it seems like something that you would hate, you would probably hate it. Apparently there's gonna be a sequel with Freddy Krueger parody, so I'll likely be watching that, and hopefully it improves on the aspects that I found to be lacking. I enjoy that this film exists, it is weird, it is different, it is also very flawed, and I'm giving this one a 5 out of 10. Thank you.
Hello? Yes?
Knock knock. Who's there? Oh, it's just me, audibletrial.com/YMS. Do you like books? Well, it doesn't matter. You get to hear someone read you a book instead. Here's Werner Herzog reading his memoir.
Christopher Robin, Winnie the Pooh, Piglet, and Eeyore.
What a lovely voice. I get commission off of you signing up for a free trial. It is free money that would otherwise line the pockets of Jeff Bezos. I repeat, audibletrial.com/YMS. audibletrial.com/YMS. audibletrial.com/YMS.